NFL. Abdul Carter going to go 3 as of right now to the Giants. A lot of talk if Jackson Dart, maybe a Shadur Sanders there, but seems like the consensus is Abdul Carter going number 3 to the Giants. And then Will Campbell seemingly penciled maybe in pen in the offensive tackle at LSU with the semi-short arms going to the Patriots. Apparently Mike Vrabel loves him. So the draft really starts at 5. Jacksonville Jaguars are on at 5. Ashton Genty and Teteroa McMillan, the guy from Arizona, and the running back, obviously the all-world running back from Boise State, linked to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Also to the Cowboys. Every mock draft I looked at this morning, every mock draft that I've seen over the last couple of weeks has had Teteroa McMillan going number 12 to the Dallas Cowboys. Thoughts on that with T-Mac? Big receiver, slower. He runs in the 4.5s. Kind of reminds you of a Mike Evans type, not the fastest guy in the world, but a great possession receiver, can still stretch the field if he runs that post route. Thoughts on that, Chuck?
I would take him. I would take the Golden Kid from Texas. I'd take one of those big, much ballyhooed offensive linemen. I would go safe with the Cowboys, but I would take the best guy that they feel like on their draft board at number 12. You can't miss with that pick at number 12. And if the general consensus is year to year that there's 15 to 18 guys that get first-round draft grades and that's it, you can't mess this up, right? So I don't know if they're going to be looking to make, quote-unquote, the splash, but you better make sure that whoever it is that you take is a guy that's going to be in a Cowboy uniform for a decade.
Yeah, the McMillan kid's interesting. I was just looking at his video with Jack Green because I remember when he was here in the Alamo Bowl, Arizona played Oklahoma, and we were on the sidelines ready to do our live shot, and a guy from Tucson was telling us about this kid, and Jack shot some video of him warming up and watched him in the game. He said, man, this kid's going to be a top 10 pick. This was a few years back. And the thing about him is he was real lean. He's tall, 6'4", but he was just like Vince Carter type hops, and did all those crazy Odell Beckham one-handed stuff in warmups, and was just a ridiculous athlete. So I've kind of had him on my radar the last couple of years, knowing that I didn't even remember his name, but I just remember there was a skinny kid out of Arizona that was very athletic.
I mean, he made a lot of DBs look really silly this year. Obviously, Noah Fafita and the Arizona Wildcats did not have the greatest year once Jed Fish left. Haha, sorry, Arizona fans. Anyway,
well, Jed Fish isn't going to. Yeah, he's not going to stay put for very long, no matter where he's at.
That's true. He's probably going to leave Washington once he gets them turned around. But anyway, T-Mac is one of the best receivers. Going into the year, he was much higher on a lot of people's boards than he is now. And Arizona didn't have the greatest year, and his 40 time dropped him a little bit. But I still think he would look great with a star on his helmet. I mean, him opposite CeeDee Lamb will give you a little bit of space, maybe shift the coverage a little bit, and you have that 2 receiver. You see what 2 big possession receivers like a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins can do on the Bengals. That's what
he gives them a red zone threat. He gives them a safety valve, a guy that has a huge radius that can go get anything.
But there's 2 schools of thought. Do you take the big guy like he reminds you of a Marcus Colston or of a Mike Evans or someone like that, or do you take the fast guy with a Matthew Golden?
I see Golden on a lot
or
of
Emeka Egbuka.
I'm also seeing an offensive lineman from North Dakota State or somewhere like that the Cowboys are apparently very high on that might sneak in there.
Well, the other guys that they've been rumored to be linked to, Kelvin Banks out of Texas, who did not have a great year. I don't know about that. He'll still be there.
You think he's going to be there at 12?
100%. I think that he had a horrible year. First of all, he was one of the most highly touted prospects coming into the season. He did not have a great year because he played hurt. His feet were a little slower. He kind of regressed this season. So I think I think he's actually going to fall and someone's going to steal him in like the 20s. I would be surprised.
Steal at 12.
I would be surprised if he got drafted top 10.
Man, if he's there at 12, you got to go there.
Other than that, though, they have a lot of defensive guys that have been rumored to the Cowboys. Mykel Williams, the edge out of Georgia. Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. Shamar Stewart, the edge out of Texas A&M, who doesn't have the production, but has all the traits in the world to be a good player. Jahdae Barron, the corner out of Texas, who's been skyrocketing up people's boards, might even go top 10, might not be there at 12. And then Emeka Egbuka, who made a lot of people look silly in the college football playoffs
Ohio State.
for Ohio State. So one other name that's really been linked to the Cowboys is Ashton Jeanty. And it seems like the draft starts wherever Ashton Jeanty goes, because we've heard that the Jags might take him. We've heard that the Patriots might take him. We've heard that the Bears might trade up to get him. We've heard the Cowboys were interested in trading up to get him. We've heard the Broncos are interested in trading up to get him if he gets past 10. So it almost seems like if you want Ashton Jeanty, you have to get past the Raiders at 6. Would that be something that you would want the Cowboys to do? Should they trade up for a running back, no matter how good he is, at number 6 or 5?
He's dynamic, and he's a difference maker. But I just don't know if you give up draft capital that much for a running back. It depends on how much they'd have to give up. Probably another second rounder, maybe.
To trade up from 12, let's just say from 12 to 5, you'd probably have to give up a first.
Most definitely.
You'd probably have to give up a first next year. Yeah, I would say a 5, or I would say your 12th pick, first next year, and maybe a 4th would probably get you up there. Would be my guess.
I think that's a high price to pay for a running back. But then again, it depends on how much they value him.
Well, yeah, it depends. Do you look at the position, or do you look at the player?
You look at both.
You look at both, but I'm with Don. In this day and age, not that running backs are a dime a dozen. You can see what a good running back will do for a football team. Ask the Eagles, right? I mean, you can ride that guy all the way in winning a Super Bowl when you got one that's good. But because of the unknown, because of, he's not playing in the SEC, there's a lot of questions I think that some may have on Ashton Jeanty. And because of that, I would have very large reservations about drafting a running back that high.
I would say it would be a failure of the Cowboys to not draft a running back in the first 2 rounds of the draft. They need somebody.
They need to address that position, but it would be a complete change of philosophy, because this is the team that wasn't interested in Saquon, or wasn't interested in
this is the team
Mixon, that wasn't interested in Derrick Henry.
This is the team that drafted Ezekiel Elliott 4th.
And that said, I know, but they said, but I'm talking about in recent years. They went back and signed Ezekiel Elliott last year thinking running backs are a dime a dozen and you can put anybody back there. So for them to go after Jeanty would mean they've changed their philosophy and learned from their mistakes, which would be great.
I mean, they had a 1,000-yard rusher last year, and
but when did they really get going on offense? Is when they finally made him the number 1 back and said, Rico, you're our guy.
And they got some continuity along their offensive line too. Let's not forget about that. I mean, there was a lot of shifting and having to plug holes last year, and a lot of what they feel like was their problem last year was their inability to run the ball was because of what was not happening on the offensive line.
Yeah.
I think of Ashton Jeanty. I don't think that they go 12. At 12, they go running back for anybody else but Ashton Jeanty.
He's gone.
If he's around 9, if he falls to about 9, you probably have to trade ahead of the Bears to get him. If he gets to 9, I could see the Cowboys maybe trading up, but 5 and 6, giving up a first-round pick, 2 first-round picks at that point for Ashton Jeanty, I think will be too much.
I think fans would love it, though.
Absolutely. There's been rumors that the Cowboys want to trade up and make a splash for Travis Hunter, but that's never going to happen. Like, you would have to give up probably 3 ones to get up to 2. So that probably won't happen. But as far as Jerry, always, rumored to be making the splash picks, the hold Jerry back, make him pick Zach Martin instead of the Johnny Manziel kind of things. I found it really interesting, the comment that Jerry made in his press conference this week. Luis, do you have that one pulled up? Jerry Bite. He basically said, I make the tie-breaking vote. I don't really make every vote. So let's hear from him.
I do not make the decision about that player. That's been made cumulatively, and it's been made cumulatively here and there. And I'm a tiebreaker, maybe. But I hope to hell that I'm sitting there listening to all of this, sat in on all the meetings, been in all the stuff. And I hope that we come up with the very best decision. I don't mind telling you now, if somebody comes up and starts coming out of my mouth right about the time we're getting ready to pick. And it's an errant idea or an errant thing. Don't you think it isn't all hell to pay now? Everybody around here is afraid to really step up here and say, wait a minute. Let's look at this real good. And Shotty's already shown me. I sit beside him, and he's already shown me he'll work my ass over.
I thought that was interesting because I think everything goes back to Jerry makes the call. It's all Jerry. But interesting that he says, no, actually, they make the call, and sometimes they tell me to shut the F up.
Well, these narrative streams start and then they don't stop. But yeah, that's the way it's been for a while now. Just like, the narrative was Jerry's coaching the team and all that nonsense. But if the thing gets down the road long enough, then all of a sudden that's what the perception is. But yeah, it's a group effort. I mean, one guy's not going to sit there and make all the choices, not in any organization. So if he has the tiebreaker vote, I mean, even he joked about that. I mean, guys looking at him like, no, Jerry, this is not the way to go. I think he's going to let these guys do what they think is in the best interest of the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to draft day.
And it pains me to say this, but they have done very well in the draft. They're a much better drafting team than they are a playing team and coaching team. They have 15 Pro Bowlers since 2014. They have the most all-pro draft picks since 2010. So they know how to pick good players, and they've had some misses, but for the most part, they've picked some really good guys.
Yeah, I mean, and they have an MO in recent years in the draft. Big up front in the trenches, especially in the first round. I mean, we were just talking about it while the bite was going on. Mozzie Smith, obviously defensive tackle. They got him at 26,
Is he
27?
A bust? Can we label him a bust?
Not yet. Okay. I feel like he had a year to grow, and then last year he played and wasn't the best. So this year, I think this is the make or break season for Mozzie. Okay. Tyler Guyton, and then Tyler Smith. Last 3 first-round picks. Tyler Smith, I think, is obviously a hit.
A great pick.
Guyton is the jury's still out on. He's had 1 year.
Yeah.
But they go big in the draft. They have in recent years. I mean, they did talk about how in CD's draft, they wanted to go linebacker the whole way or edge the whole way, and then CD was still there, so they picked him because he was higher on their board. They do a very, very good job of sticking to their draft board and sticking to where they rank these players. So if they have, let's just say Shamar Stewart, the edge out of Texas A&M at 4, and they don't think he's going to be there, and so they're thinking, okay, Matthew Golden, Ted McMillan the entire way, but Shamar Stewart's still there, and he's a little bit higher than McMillan is. They're going to take Stewart. They're going to take whoever's higher on their board.
They're going to take, a lot goes into these first-round picks, right? And it's the measurables, right? Because you can't miss in the first round. You cannot, without a doubt, miss when you have a first-round pick. So the biggest guy, the strongest guy, the fastest guy, those are the guys and they have all those traits, and they've got the resume to go along with it. Those are the guys that get drafted in the first round. And that's why, if it's true, more often than not, the axiom of being only 15 to 18 guys have first-round draft grades, even though there's 30-something teams, that tells you how important, having a high pick is. And so I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see them go another offensive lineman, because if you think that there's one that's athletic and big and strong and fast and smart and good in the locker room and all these other things, it's a safe bet to go with a guy like they've gone with
Travis
2 out of the last 3
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. I mean, you look at those years that they drafted Tyron, Zach, and Travis. Like,
that served them well,
it
right?
served them pretty well. They had way better offensive line. They had a good enough offensive line to win a Super Bowl. They just didn't. They didn't perform in the playoffs. They can get there now. They need to know what Guyton is. They need to know what Steele is. They need to know who's going to play left guard now that Zach Martin's gone, if it's going to be Hoffman or not. So I could see them going offensive line. Maybe not in the first if their guy isn't there, if a Will Campbell's not there, or the other.
The guy from South Dakota, North Dakota.
I can't think of his name right now.
Graham something.
But anyway, if their guy is not there, then I don't think they're going to stretch to take him if it's a receiver. Like if Matthew Golden is gone or Ted McMillan's gone, I could see them trying to trade down and maybe getting one of those guys that they really love a little bit later.
But you're going to get like not all those guys are going to be gone. There's more good players than 12. So if Golden's gone and Tet's gone, that means that the tight end from Penn State is there.
Yeah, but they're not gonna draft Tyler Warren. Also, Tyler Warren's not gonna be there 12.
Right.
I don't think.
Right. But I mean, somebody's going to
Colston Loveland might be there 12.
Somebody's going to have to be,
Yeah.
somebody's going to have to be there.
Yeah. Or you trade back, or you try to trade back. I mean, it takes two to make a trade, but
is that Penn State kid for real?
Penn State, the Abdul Carter kid.
Yeah.
No, Tyler Warren.
Tyler Warren.
Yeah. He's the,
He's number 44, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was the guy who they took Wildcat snaps with.
Yeah.
And
I liked him.
absolutely lit up
You
Boise
think
State in the Fiesta Bowl.
You think he can make it in the NFL?
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's going to be the best tight end in the league within the next 5 years.
Oh, wow.
I love Tyler Warren.
Really?
Yeah. 100%. Love Tyler Warren.
You think he's going to be better than the kid from Georgia that's at the Raiders?
Oh, Brock Bowers?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's more of an all-around tight end. Brock Bowers is more of a Colston Loveland, which is the Michigan tight end that is going to go in the first round tonight. He's more of a receiving guy. Tyler Warren, everything tight end. He can block his ass off. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can even do some Wildcat running plays and throw it because he was a quarterback in his former life.
Wow.
So he's phenomenal. I love Tyler Warren. He's one of my favorite prospects in this entire draft. Anyway, but I also love tight ends. So
You're a nerd.
I am a nerd.
I'm kind of surprised you weren't a tight end.
I was a tight end.
Ha!
I was a tight end and they moved me to tackle.
And why did they do that?
I wasn't as good as tackle.
Something about the hands, perhaps?
No, my hands are great.
He outgrew the position and he turned into
Honestly,
tackle.
Honestly, in a college football or my junior college, we ran out of our two tackles. Both got hurt, and we needed another one.
No, it's because you're 6'7", 290.
Yeah, but at that point, I was 6'6", 230, and they moved me to tackle, and I still did all right. Anyway,
Are you 290 right now?
no,
Okay.
You
he
feel
just
like
likes upping the.
Hey, man, you pack it on pretty well there.
He
big
just likes
fella.
upping the weight every time we talk.
You're at least 262.
This isn't about me. This isn't about me.
Do you feel like if they wouldn't have moved you, you would have had like maybe a shot?
But I'll always feel that way.
Really?
Also, one of my best friends was the tight end in waiting there. So at my school. Anyway, we don't have to talk about that. Anyway, the
He's
question.
Nate Newton.
The question is that was asked to Jerry in the press conference, and we'll hear what Jerry said about it right now. Is if Jackson Dart or if a Shadur Sanders is there at 12, which all indications are that both of them will probably be there at 12. Do you take a quarterback?
And before we listen to the bite, and can see it on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
You can see Jerry. Something was going on with Jerry with his hands. He had the pen, and then the whole press conference, he talked with his pen and with his hands. Check it out.
Yeah, well, we've got a major commitment with Dak, and so you weigh all of that. And but I was going to add to this whole conversation. It's very often that somebody will step up and say, "Now we got this guy right here. We've got him, and we just signed him under contract." But guess what? Guys get hurt. So you bet your whole house that you got him, and then all of a sudden you don't have him. So that's when your old mind starts saying, well, if this guy did get hurt, what would we do this year? There you go. There you go. But don't misinterpret. All I'm saying is that you have to figure that rather than say we've got him, we don't have that need, you have to figure that there's some injury to be. Now, how important is that player as opposed to the one you're looking at on the board? And could he fill that need right there? I do that.
Jane Slater was trying to give him an out. Jane Slater was like, how am I supposed to interpret that? Other than saying, yeah, we need to draft a quarterback because Dak might get hurt again.
It's exactly what he was saying.
That's exactly what he was saying. We're going to draft a quarterback because Dak might get hurt again. Maybe not at 12, but at some point in this draft, do not be surprised when the Cowboys take a quarterback.
No, they said that.
And they probably will. But what I'm saying is they probably will sooner rather than later. I'm saying like a third-round pick.
It's possible.
Like a Quinn Ewers in the third or a Jalen Milroe in the late second or Tyler Shuck if he starts falling because of his age and his arm strength. If there's someone that they like in the third round, a quarterback is definitely in play. Will they make the move to draft Jackson Dart or Shadur Sanders in the first? 99.9% no.
I'm with you.
But don't be surprised when they draft a quarterback, because I think there's a lot of truth into what he just painted himself into, which was Dak gets hurt. Where are we?
Well, that's true, but I think we knew that going in, right? I
Yeah.
mean, Cooper Rush is no longer on the team. They do need a backup quarterback, so they're going to have to invest some draft capital in that position, but they still can't do it at number 1. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a total swing and miss to spitball here and say that they might go in the 3rd round, depending on who's there.
Quinn Ewers in round 3 or 4.
Yeah, maybe.
What about this guy Milton that they got from the Patriots? That guy can play.
Joe Milton.
He played is he not the backup
He's the only other quarterback on the roster
right now? But what I'm saying is,
We got Will Greer in there too.
do we think that he's the the number 1 backup
No.
Don't
So,
know.
yes,
No
he's the only
disrespect,
other
Will Greer. Yeah.
after the draft pick, whoever they draft? This Milton kid,
Milton played well, but he's not. I mean, he's in his 3rd year now or 2nd year.
he's played in 1 game, and in his first NFL start, he went 22 for 27 and never played again.
Yeah, because they had Drake May.
I know, which is fine, but that doesn't mean this kid can't play.
I'm not saying he can't play. I'm saying that they still need to draft another quarterback.
Yeah,
Because if
but
let's say
maybe
Dak
behind
gets
Milton's
hurt. Let's say Dak gets hurt. Do you trust Joe Milton to go out and win you games?
Do you trust Joe Milton more than you do whoever you draft now?
Depends on who you draft.
Well,
I would trust Quinn Ewers more than I would trust Joe Milton.
all
I
I'm
would
saying
trust-
is the guy got to play in 1 NFL game. He went 22 for 27.
Yeah,
That was
but there's a
garbage
reason
game,
that they
too.
almost
I mean,
there's a
no
reason they almost
disrespect to Joe
convert
Milton.
there's a reason they almost converted him to tight end.
Okay.
Like because he was never going to play quarterback in New England, and as long as Dak stays healthy, he's never going to play quarterback in Dallas either.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he going to play in front of the draft pick?
No.
Okay.
You guys just touched on it, but we got a question from David Wickersham. He's asking, could you see Quinn
relation to
Ewers
Seth?
in Dallas?
One more time.
Quinn, could you see Ewers in Dallas?
100%.
I mean, is that a reality?
Jerry apparently really liked him in the interview.
Yeah, that's what Todd Archer tweeted this morning. They really liked Quinn in the interview, so I could see that for sure. I mean, I could see them.
Talent.
I could see them drafting a couple of Texas guys, a couple of Jade Barron or Kelvin Banks or a Quinn Ewers or a Matthew Golden. Any of those guys could be Cowboys. 100%.
Tom's in the house.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Shout out Tom Guerrero.
Also, Aristu from from a different country. I forgot which country, but he's
Husker Du?
he's in hold on.
Mariska Hargitay. Mariska
Oh, but
Hargitay.
Robert
Mariska
Smith is
Hargitay,
asking.
Mariska Hargitay.
He says, "I'm thinking the Cowboys should draft a tight end first. Dak was best with a great tight end, and
Yeah, but they like Fergie. They like Fergie. Still got Schoonmaker. I mean, they're fine at tight end. It's not a huge glaring need.
Ferguson's in a contract year, I believe, though. So
Yeah,
it's
but
gonna be
that's
fascinating
why they
year for
drafted
him.
Schoonmaker.
Yeah.
Aristu's
What if somebody gets hurt?
from Brazil.
Yeah.
We got Brazil in the house.
Brazil in the house. Any questions from Brazil?
Well, he just said hello, and I'm
Oh.
in Brazil.
Hi.
Hola.
Shout out Brazil.
Hola. They speak Portuguese there.
Do they?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful language.
Brazil.
Okay.
And actually,
They speak Braille, and
funny story about that. They're the only South American country to speak Portuguese. Everyone else speaks Spanish. Because
did not know
in
that.
the
Look at the big brain on Matt.
Yeah.
he could be making it up.
Well, of course, that head.
I need to get out
Got to
more.
fill out.
that's 290.
skull.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, and back I forgot
Big,
the year. I
gigantic
forgot the year,
brains.
but Portugal and Spain both had settlements down in South America, and they had an agreement to where Portugal, theirs was obviously in the Brazil area. So then they had an agreement. I forgot what the treaty was, and Portugal went back, but they still left their language, still left their people there. So the Portuguese is the official language of Brazil, and everyone else is Spanish.
There you go.
Who knew?
Went
As
on
if
vacation one time. To
People
Portugal. It was
listening to this
beautiful.
podcast weren't already asleep with the minutia of tight ends.
Yes.
Now we get that.
I'm just here to educate. I listened in school.
Educate and fascinate.
I was a nerd. All right,
Yes.
guys. I still am a nerd, but my knowledge is an inch deep and a mile wide. So I know a little bit.
A
about
jack of
that.
all trades, a master of none.
Exactly.
Means
Last
you do well up until the double Jeopardy round, and then
100%.
you yeah.
First round, I'm so good at Jeopardy.
Did
Everything
you have enough
past that.
speed for tight end?
Huh?
Did you have enough speed for tight end?
I ran a 4.72.
Not bad.
Why are we still on me?
when he was
I don't know.
235.
Anyway, last thing real quick on the Cowboys, the Micah contract. Steven had this to say about the Micah contract. There you go.
Look around the league, and most of these players who are getting these very top contracts
Let's
it
just
does
get this
take
wrapped
time
up.
to ultimately get there. And believe me, if we could sign Micah to a number we wanted to sign him to, we'd do it right now. But right now, there's a difference in what we feel like is the right number and what he feels like is the right number.
Yeah, I mean, difference in numbers there. Do you guys think the Micah deal will get done? Did yesterday from the Micah sound and from the sound from Steven and Jerry tell you guys anything?
It gets done, but it'll be third day of training camp.
Probably. I mean, the longer these things go on, the longer they seem to take, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I was more fascinated by Jerry talking about why he doesn't like talking to agents
That was an
based on
interesting
his
story.
relationship with Des Bryant and his representation, Jay-Z, and why he likes to go right to the player.
That was
when
an
he's
interesting-
talking about paying one of the guys on the team like he's going to pay him top dollar.
That was an interesting story that he told about Jerry, or that Des and his agent Jay-Z.
And he's talking about Des missing meetings. So there was an issue like, if I'm going to write this check, will you start doing this part or not do that anymore? I'm wondering if Jerry and Micah, because Micah speaks very highly of Jerry, they like each other. I wonder if in their closed door meetings, Jerry says, man, if I'm going to write you a check for $40 million a year, will you not do the podcast? Or will you be more careful what you say on the podcast? Because we were all under the impression last year, there was a brief talk that they were considering trading Micah. And Chuck, you and I talked about it. There was a buzz that there was some rumors that maybe the Cowboys were tiring of his immaturity and tiring of some of his mess off the field. And all of a sudden, now he's the grown up and runs off DeMarcus Lawrence because the old guys were being knuckleheads in the locker room. And he said, we wanted to eliminate all this stuff that was going on. And me and some of the younger blood leaders of the team wanted to, ship up, what do they call it? Clean up some of the off the field stuff inside the locker room. So maybe he's learning and growing and being more mature, but I'm wondering if in those conversations, Jerry says things like that.
I mean, I'm sure that the conversation of being at OTAs and being at voluntary mini camps, all of that's come up. That's why Micah's there.
Yeah.
Micah was going to work out on
Prove
his
to
own.
me that you want to.
Yeah, prove to me that you want to
want
sign.
the
You want
bag.
to be the leader. You want the bag.
Yeah,
And-
we're not going to give the money to the guy who's in Japan doing sumo wrestling.
Exactly. Let's get to the Texans here.
The pick is in.
The pick is not in because I have no idea what the Texans are going to
That's
do.
what
I
that
do
means.
know that the Texans are going to draft an offensive lineman. I just don't know if it's going to be in the first round. It's going to be offensive receiver. That's all I'm seeing. That's all I'm hearing. That's all I've seen anywhere. Is that it's going to be offensive line, whether it's Connerly or Johnson or whoever, at 25, or it's going to be receiver because of Tank Dell's injury. Chuck, if you were the Texans and let me just give you the scenario that you have an equally rated offensive lineman, tackle, let's just say,
Mhm.
and an equally rated receiver, what direction would you go?
Well, probably I would go receiver over offensive lineman, even though I know that their needs are great when they're trying to basically rebuild their offensive line on the fly. But I'm going to be more curious to see if they make a trade.
Yeah.
Because they've got 4 picks in the top 90.
4 in the top 97 overall.
So, are they going to take those bottom 3 and try to bundle them and then try to get into those middle rounds, at the middle of the first round, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 in that range? If they can move up 8 slots, they're probably going to end up with a pretty damn good football player. And then, they've been pretty crafty with how they've worked the draft the last few years. So, that's to me what I'm going to be looking for tonight. How aggressive will Nick Caserio be, or are they going to just stand pat because they really like what's coming their way?
Or do you trade, or is that a spot where a Cleveland or a New York Giants or who insert quarterback needy team here trades up into the first to draft a Jackson Dart, to draft a Shedeur Sanders, to draft a Tyler Shuck? Do you trade from, the front end of the second into the first, maybe pick up another second round pick, pick up a third round pick this year and next year to get another quarterback? So that could be a spot too, if the guy that they want isn't there. Nick Caserio has proven time and time again that he's willing to move.
Yes, he is.
He's done a good job. I didn't like him at first, but he's done a really nice job.
He's got crazy eyes.
That's what makes
Yeah.
it fun. Part of the fun, I should say.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. Last thing I want to get to here is Cam Ward. So Cam Ward going to go number 1 overall tonight, barring some act of God that he does not. But He's out of Miami now. Was at Washington State before that. Before that, he was here in San Antonio. Started his career at UIW here in San Antonio the first 2 years before he went to Washington State. What do you guys remember about him here before we get to the package?
Numbers. Put up 2,600 yards in 6 games his first year. It was a weird year. They played it in
the COVID year.
Spring. And and then the next year, I think it was 4,600 yards or something like that.
He lit the world on fire.
He's a
I think the thing that popped.
machine.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
That's
you
okay.
off. I'm hard of hearing. That's why I don't have the headphones on. You just remember the game not being too fast for him, like always in control, always making the right reads. If it's not there, tuck it and go. I remember too, like one of his last interviews when they were getting ready to, advance to, I don't even remember if it was a playoff game or if it was just a bigger game. I went down there and talked to him, and I was surprised that he wasn't as tall as I thought he was. And I guess they've got him listed at 6'2". That's a surprise to me, because I'm looking him right in the eye, and I thought he looks bigger on the field than he actually is in person. But, he slimmed down too. I mean, he was 240 pounds when he stepped on the campus, and I think he's 20 pounds lighter than that now. But the one thing that you could have always seen with him
his
is
weight went to Matt.
It's possible.
Who took your hair then?
Oh, snap. Well,
Mother Nature
she's working on me too. But what I was going to
deserved that.
as we're going to pivot out of this as quickly as possible, he's always produced. He's never sucked, right? And he's gotten better every step of the way. He goes to Washington State. Penix gets all the love, well-deserved love in that league. But here he was hanging with him when they had their one matchup, going toe-to-toe with him. And then he goes to Miami, bigger league, still produces, 4th in the Heisman. So, am I shocked that he's put himself in a great position for this draft? No. Am I shocked that he potentially could go number 1 overall? Absolutely.
That was going to be my next question. At any point when he was here for 2 years in Incarnate Word and you heard he was transferring to Washington State, where you're like, yeah, he might be the first pick in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, that might be one of the most unlikely guys ever. If he goes number 1 overall, like I don't know that anybody would have saw this coming. And I mean, the coaches here, they knew they had something in him. What they had, they weren't sure of. The more they were around him, they knew they had something special. But there's no way even they could have forecast
100%.
that.
But a lot of this is, and it happens from time to time. I think of Dennis Rodman coming out of Dallas Carter. Or South Oak Cliff. He had no college offers, and he went to Southeast Oklahoma State and blossomed, and then ended up, being a Hall of Famer with the Pistons. There are late bloomers, the guys that, Cam was a 0-star that got invited to this camp here in San Antonio, and they saw him and they said, oh my goodness. He steps on campus, and in 15 practices, he's the starter. Goes to Washington State with Morris, and that system helps him. Goes to Miami. He's just continued to get better and grow. And so, yes, for the most part, these recruiting services, when they don't usually miss on a Walter Nolan or these 5-stars that are coming out of high school, what it looks like. But every once in a while, there's a guy who's not that, who becomes that despite their physical stature, just through growth.
J.J. Watt was a 2-star recruit.
Sometimes
people miss.
Yeah.
And they clearly missed with Cam
But,
Morton.
in the evaluator's defense on this one, how many 6'1", if that's what he was, 240-pound quarterbacks, I don't care what he looks like on the field, how many of those do you see at the D1 level?
Running the wing T.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he threw fewer than 400 passes, I think, in his high school career. I mean, but, I'm pretty sure, that's why I'm saying pretty sure, because my memory is fading as I get older. I'm pretty sure G.J. Kinney told me once that when they saw him, they really liked how he ran the basketball team. And he was the leading scorer on the basketball team. He was near the top of his class academically. There were a lot of things that they really liked, his leadership abilities, all of those things that kind of played into why they ended up making the decision on him. And then I think they came to the conclusion pretty quickly that they were way over the target.
And what the Titans are seeing is the same thing that Josh Pate saw at Miami 2 days after he transferred there. There's a great story by Josh Pate said he went down to Miami to interview Cam because he had just transferred to Miami. He had been there for less than 48 hours. Didn't know his teammates, didn't know these new guys. He ran a player-led practice. And they said there were no coaches out there. Cam Ward, he said the best way I can describe it, it was a general commanding his troops. He was dog cussing guys when they got out. He goes, the fact that these older Miami Hurricanes were listening to this guy as if he had been there for 4 years and giving him the respect and giving him, the gravitas of a guy who had been there less than 48 hours. He said it was absolutely amazing that his command. We asked the same thing about Clint yesterday, and Clint said same thing when he was here. He walked onto the field as a recruit, and in 15 practices, he was our guy because people follow him.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bad things about the transfer portal. This is one of the good things.
Yeah, it worked out.
It worked out for Cam Ward. I mean, when you can start your career at UIW and you can transfer to Washington State and make a big name for yourself and then transfer to Miami and now end up going first overall and almost win a Heisman, that's a success story of the transfer portal, unlike all of the horror stories that we end up seeing so much. So let's hear another good story. This one from our friend Chase Shannon back in 2021. Shout out to Chase. But this is about Cam Ward, a little bit of a sit down.
Cameron Ward, the freshman quarterback for UIW, has been lights out. There's Ward. Pass is caught. Touchdown for UIW.
Coming in, there's obviously a 2-year All-American starter, John Copeland. So I'm just coming in with the mentality I have nothing to lose. Coach Moore's giving me the chance to start. So I'm coming in with COVID. And we don't know how the workout's gonna go because we have to limit the capacity in the weight room, on the field run. So just having that really took a toll on us as a team because we weren't able to connect that to create that bond that normal team can be able to create.
Incarnate Word doing a great job keeping this guy under wraps. Cameron Ward, a true freshman.
More time to become the starter, help me learn more from John and Kevin. So I think that played a big factor why I'm here starting today.
A 0-star recruit with only one offer. How in the world did they find this guy?
I really don't know how they discovered me. Coach Lethwich, he just sent me a text on Twitter, asked me to come to camp. And immediately when I got here, after we finished the 4th game, let the running backs do the work.
How many passing touchdowns did you have?
I think it was 14 or 17 altogether. My 3 years I was on varsity, I think it was those numbers.
How many touchdowns did you throw for in these 6 games?
24.
24 passing touchdowns in just 6 games, setting a school record for most touchdown passes in a single season. In a wing tee, he only got to flash that arm strength a couple of times.
I threw a couple deep balls. I think the deep ball that I remember the most, we were playing against El Campo. I think it was 75 or 80 in the air. And our receiver caught it, so that was a nice play. I smiled after that one.
Setting records is nothing new for the freshman phenom. He's got 1 or 2 at his high school in a different sport.
I started all 4 years, freshman to senior year. I became the all-time leading scorer, 2,000-plus points. I was two-time offensive player of the year for the county. So those are just some of the accolades.
First and 15. Ward has a wide open wide receiver. Jalen Campbell, 6 more for UIW.
The accolades just piling up this year. A couple of National Player of the Week awards, his conference's Freshman of the Year, then the big one, the Jerry Rice Award, given to the top freshman in all of FCS football.
It's been great. I worked hard my whole life to get to where I am, and just seeing that I'm finally getting the recognition that I deserve it means a lot to me. I'm gonna keep working hard every day.
Far from a finished product, Ward says he's gonna keep working.
Just being consistent with my footwork. I think I wasn't consistent enough, on the quick game, just being lazy with my job. Once I get consistent on that, I think it'll take me a long way.
And behind him, a great support group. Cousins with former Texas Longhorn stars Quentin Jammer and Quandre Diggs.
He's been important to me. He's been a role model my whole life. He's obviously in the NFL. I'm trying to get to where he's at. Hopefully play against him someday. And, throw a touchdown pass or 2 against him. I'd be able to talk mess to him. So he won't ever be able to outlive that. I'm going to talk my best to him.
No mess being talked just yet, but plenty of advice from a guy who's already made it.
Just keep that chip on my shoulder. Just remember all the schools who told me no, all the schools that passed on me. So he's been a big influence on me.
Perhaps as big as Ward's arm, his fishing stories. An angler himself, loving to get out on his uncle's boat and drop a line. His best tale?
I think this is when I was young, maybe like 8, 9, around that area, 10 years old. We like every summer, or every Thanksgiving, we used to go to Rockport, family trip. We go fishing down there, just have a good time with all our family on my mom's side. And so I caught a piranha one time. And so we take that the piranha off. So I was happy about that. Then I go to throw my rod back in the water to catch another fish, and I threw it the wrong way. And I remember I'm young, and so I hooked one of my mom's friends, her husband, hooked him in the nose, and I'm pulling. He over here, like, he doesn't feel a thing. So I was like, man, it's not a good day.
From our own Chase Shannon, who has moved on to bigger and better things here in San Antonio. But anyway, I can't wait to see Cam Ward go number 1 overall tonight. Can't wait to see what the Browns do at 2 and everything else. The draft is one of my favorite days of the entire sports calendar. So that's my favorite music of the entire sports year. So that and the Masters chimes, which Bob knows nothing about. Sorry, Bob.
They're still going to keep doing the Masters in the same place.
They're going to keep doing it in the same place. Yeah.
Doesn't seem fair.
Anyway, we'll see you all back here on Monday. That's all we got for the Sneakers and Gleats podcast. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Don, Chuck, and I will be back for a full draft recap on Monday. We'll see you then.